Russ?
All around. Should sleep in their bed. Pick her up. Her back.
Right.
Oh, I didn't. We have one that's on it.
Yeah, the difference.
The child.
Busy probably.
Have you been?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think most guys fail retirement. Yeah.
That's great.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
She'll get you in trouble. Look.
Yes. Yes.
Next
Yeah.
Oh my coat.
Scott, did you go to a Q Life meeting last Thursday? Thursday before,
Was there before, yeah,
but it was after our city council meeting.
yes. No. Before the last meeting.
Or the last meeting.
Yeah, it was,
They did some rescheduling, right? Because I had some automatics. It was on there for. We met on
what day it was.
we met on the 21st, and I see one on here for the 24th.
It was,
But there wasn't one. Right?
I think it was on the 23rd, actually. Might have been 24th. I thought it was Wednesday.
Well, they met on Thursday here. But I don't.
That's when
I got cut off on one of them. Maybe it was one before. Signal.
I was looking for a cutoff switch.
It would have been on the 24th.
Guys ready to roll?
Mute.
Okay, we're going to get started. Welcome, everybody, to the April 11th, 2022 City Council meeting. And item 2 on the agenda is the roll call of the City Council. I would ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Darcy Curtis,
Present.
Tim McLaughlin,
Present.
Scott Randall,
Present?
Dan Richardson,
Present.
Rod Runyon,
Present.
Mayor Mays.
Present. Item 3 is the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to call on Councilman Rod Runyon to please lead us in the pledge.
Stand if you're able. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2.
Item 4 is approval of the agenda. We do have a amendment to the agenda. We've added 11C, which is a resolution authorizing some budget transfers. And with that, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Also move.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
This is moved by Councilman Richardson and seconded by Councilor Randall to approve the agenda as amended. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion passes. Item 5. 5A is a presentation from the Mid-Columbia Economic Development District. It's an update, and I believe we have Kate Drennan with us, who is the Deputy Director of Transportation. Is she here?
Yes, I am.
Oh, there she is. Okay, hi.
Hello.
Did I get your
So-
name and title okay?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Okay.
So I'm going to share my screen. I do have a presentation prepared for you today. I'm not sure how much time I have, so that might impact how much detail I go into. Does anyone know? 10, 20 minutes? What?
What'd you say? 10 minutes. Is that okay?
Yes, I will try to rush.
That's all right.
Okay. So as my title says, I'm the Deputy Director of Transportation here at MCED. So I kind of wear 2 hats. I do regional transportation planning, but I also oversee the Link Public Transit. And that is mostly what I'm here to give you an update on what we have been doing. So I will launch into that. So today I'm going to give you a quick overview reminder of our services, tell you a little bit about the transit development planning process that we've been engaging in, and talk a bit about some existing and future funding opportunities. So we have a number of services that we offer here in the Dalles and in Wasco County. Just for those of you who might be less familiar, we offer red and blue deviated fixed route in the Dalles. And so that's our routes that loop through the city. It has about 13 bus stops. We really focus on serving high need destinations for folks. We also offer Dial a Ride, which is a door-to-door service that's scheduled ahead of time. We prioritize medical and necessity rides like to grocery stores, but we are open to any member of the public that requests these rides. We find this is really important to the city and Wasco County for aging in place in particular. It gives our seniors a lot of freedom. We also offer a Hood River route. This is something new that we took on this fall. We go 4 times a day. We stop in Mosier, the Port of Hood River, downtown Hood River, Cat. This connects onto Portland. And this has been really important for linking up to employment and those, like I said, regional buses to Portland Airport, Vancouver, and really elsewhere in the Gorge. We also offer a shopping bus. This is door-to-door service delivery from people's homes to grocery stores and shopping centers in the Dalles. And we also go to Hood River shopping. Unlimited stops, no bag limit. This is, again, something that a lot of our seniors use and is really essential for aging in place, and also essential, grocery prescription trips for those who don't have a vehicle. We do a South County shuttle. So that's service to Dufur, Tye Valley, and Maupin. That's something that we have weekly. Again, folks schedule ahead of time, unlimited kind of stops in the Dalles. It meets a lot of medical and social needs. People come in for trips to see family, friends, go to religious institutions, that sort of thing. And we have a high school program. And so that's free rides for high school students using their student ID. This is important for connecting our students to schoolwork, to schools, to their work, after school activities, really anywhere they want to go. They're not limited to what they use their ID passes for. We also started participating in the Gorge Pass this year. This is an annual $40 pass. It works on the red and blue and Hood River routes here in the Dalles, but it also works on Skamania County, Mount Adams, CAT, the Columbia Gorge Express into Portland. It's a really wonderful value at $40 a year to ride throughout the Gorge, connecting people again to Portland, the airport, kind of all over. We built an equity program into this that raises money for search and rescue. It helps offer free transit passes to low-income individuals, and it also gets kind of underserved communities and communities of color, people that haven't typically gotten out recreationally into the Gorge, out here as a connection to them. In that vein, we partner with Columbia Area Transit on what we call a Transit Connect program. And this is something that we partner with our community-based organizations to provide those free annual transit passes, that Gorge Pass, or Dial-A-Ride, single-use Dial-A-Ride tickets to low-income individuals. And so that's really helping support these organizations to get people access to transportation that might not be able to afford it. We also support those organizations with kind of travel training and transit information, and we're working on developing a transportation ambassador program. So kind of building organizational capacity within these organizations to be able to better serve their clients. So that's about all the stuff that we're doing currently, but we've also been engaging in a long-range transit development plan with the help of some consultants. So this is for Wasco County. It's a 20-year transit plan. It's kind of the first one that the link has done. And it's really about providing a strategy for where we want to invest and improve and how we want to fund transit and kind of why we're doing it now. For the link, we've been operating as a Dial-A-Ride for decades, and we transitioned to these deviated fixed routes, adding those services really in the last few years, a lot of them right before COVID, and then COVID hit and a lot of ridership dropped off. And so it's, we're kind of reintroducing our transit system to folks. There's also just a lot of changing technology in the transit world. There's changing electrification of fleets. There's a lot of rider tools that are out there and accessible to help people better access transit and understand it. And then the other reason is just, we all know that there's a lot of high costs of housing and the combined housing transportation costs, and even now just transportation costs with the cost of fuel rising, that thinking about there's more need than ever for good transit service that's available to everyone. So how can we make our services more accessible, convenient, efficient, comfortable, all those things. So as we went about this transit development plan, we have been looking at some guiding goals and policies to really drive the plan. And you can see here we pulled from the City of the Dalles transportation system plan that was done a few years ago. We've also looked at the transportation goals within the City of the Dalles comprehensive plan. I've been following the Dalles visioning survey and been, or the visioning session, and been participating in that effort, and did see that some of the key themes were around transportation and alternative ways to get around. And then our 5 goals that have driven the plan, you can see number 4, really customer-focused services, that accessibility and connectivity within the Dalles and elsewhere in Wasco County, coordination that's regionally, but also with organizations and agencies within the Dalles, and health and sustainability, both from an environmental perspective, but also really a fiscal sustainability as well. So early on, we did create a needs summary, and these needs were determined by looking at previous plan processes, by doing stakeholder interviews, online community surveys, and onboard surveys of our riders as well. And some of the major themes that came out were, a desire for increased frequency, weekend service, improved bus stops and the addition of bus stops, improved efficiency of our routes and just getting where you need to go more quickly, updated vehicle fleet, tools, technologies, and increased education and marketing. One thing we learned is that a lot of people just don't really know about our services, or they think that they're not accessible to the general public, whereas that's not true. They are accessible to any member of the public. So I'm just really diving through here. We are nearing the end of our plan. We have actually an open house online right now that's going on. It's open for 3 weeks. And in this online open house, we're presenting our draft recommendations and taking feedback. We have our recommendations sorted into a short-term, midterm, and long-term. And again, this is a 20-year plan. So by short-term, I'm looking at 0 to 5 years, midterm, 5 to 10, and long-term, kind of 10 years and beyond. And so in our short-term, we're looking at really those efficiencies of our existing routes and converting some of those, really expanding the number of bus stops, better serving downtown, some of that marketing and branding and better coordination. Our midterm and long-term look more at higher cost, more involved items. So that could be additional services to South Wasco County. It's updating that vehicle fleet, transitioning to electric or other renewable energies, looking at service enhancement in the Dalles with extended hours. And then long-term, again, increased service kind of both within the Dalles out there, really making sure that we continue to adapt to new developments that are happening within the Dalles at the port, MCMC, the navigation services, kind of all of those big developments that are brewing, and we want to make sure that we're servicing those. This slide shows you one of those near-term route changes that we're considering. Kind of on the lower left is our existing blue and red routes. You can see that they're both loops that operate in a counterclockwise fashion. And so some of the most impactful near-term solutions that we're looking at are adding a ton of bus stops to that blue route and adding a bunch of bus stops to the red as well, but making that red really an out and back rather than a loop. And that's going to be really beneficial for folks because you'll be able to get directly into downtown from the transit center much more quickly. And with an out and back loop, you can get on the bus just going east or west in the direction you're going in. You don't have to sit on a looping bus and go out of direction just to kind of go where you're trying to go. So that should be a really big win for our riders. This is another map of one of the draft recommendations, which is extending our intercity bus that we have right now between the Dalles and Hood River. We heard from a lot of students and staff at CGCC that they're interested in kind of a one-seat ride between the 2 campuses. Currently, we do have transfers that you line up. You get to the Dalles Transit Center, hop on our blue line and go up to the college on that route. But we do think we have the capacity to potentially extend that route to make it more of that quick one-seat ride. And when not going to the campus, we might be able to on the weekends go directly into downtown as well. So these are the other near-term recommendations that I'm really focused on in the next few years on that implementation side, and things that we are hoping we can do with mostly the funding we have now, but also a little bit of extra competitive grants that I've been submitting. And this first one is that bus stops. You know, we have about 13 bus stops on our deviated route right now, but I'm looking to really scale up our bus stops so that people can easily walk to one to catch the bus, you know, get off closer to their destinations, help bring more visibility into the community. This semi seat, which you see on the far left, is a really great way to easily, it's a very small footprint, you know, it offers 2 seats and a bus sign stop so that you can easily install it, you can scale it up quickly, it's pretty economical, and it kind of provides a lot of awareness of transit within the community. So we're really interested in those. We'll be looking at some additional bus shelters at really high ridership locations. Those are important, particularly if you have a spot where you might have a few people waiting. Again, community outreach and travel training. We've been really focused on building more robust partnerships within the community, letting folks know about our subsidized fares, helping with travel training so that people can learn how to use the system, especially if they need some extra help navigating. In that picture is our operations manager, Jesus, and Sarah, our travel trainer. And so she's really trying to make those connections in the community. And then, like I said, marketing, branding, and education. We've heard that a lot of people just don't know about the services out there. And so making sure that we get information into the community and up our branding game so that people kind of recognize the link and help differentiate us from other you know, medical services within the community. This is just a snapshot of the funding and support that we have in the Dalles. We do have some formula funds that come through the county. Those are kind of our ones that have really reliable funds most of the time, and those do fund our dial-a-ride services and some of our other shuttles and programs like our low-income outreach, Spanish speaking marketing, that sort of thing. We spend a lot of time going after competitive discretionary grant dollars from the state, and those have traditionally funded our routes within the Dalles. They also fund our mobility management program. That's when we partner with community organizations or employers. It helps fund our regional transit coordination, things like our Gorge Pass marketing program right now. We do receive an annual local contribution from the city of the Dalles. That's really helpful because those local dollars are what we can use to match those competitive grant funds that we go for. They're really important. They can leverage, you know, that $20,000 annual contribution can leverage between $20,000 and up to $130,000, depending on the match requirements. I applied for some electric vehicles to help replace some of our aging vehicles recently, and it was a 85% state match to a 15% local match. So that's where you see that those local dollars can really bring a huge payback into the community. So they're really important. And another way the city has supported us in the past is with in-kind support with labor to install signposts and ready shelter sites for our contractor who came in and installed our shelters. We also pursue foundation grants. We've gotten grants from Google in the past and the MCMC Foundation. And then of course we have our fares and contracts and other reimbursements. This is just kind of showing you, this is a graphic from our transit development plan. A lot of the recommendations that are coming out of it from our consultants are wonderful, but very expensive. And so we were trying to kind of show what they would cost to meet some of those needs that were identified and what we would need in terms of funding to meet that need. So I'm nearing the end of my 10 minutes, and I just wanted to end with a sort of a few slides of what's next and how you can help. So we are finalizing that transit development plan. We're processing that open house feedback that's happening right now. We'll have the MCED board adopt that. It'll also be accepted by the Wasco County and updating that transportation system plan. I'm really focused on implementing these route recommendations and those bus stops. We're hoping we get those competitive grant dollars to buy those semi seats and get some of those installed. We'll hope to work with the city to implement those new bus stops. I'm also focused on a fleet transition strategy. We are participating in a pilot program with ODOT to create kind of a fleet transition plan and practices. And I've been talking with North Wasco Utility District about putting in some charging infrastructure for those electric vehicles. I think for us, you know, we're moving in that direction. We need to replace fleets. Going electric is going to save us money on fuel and maintenance. And so that's something that we're looking we're doing some forward looking and trying to find the money to get those electric vehicles. They are a lot more expensive, but then the operating is a lot cheaper. So focusing on that transition strategy, again, outreach and communication, and always looking for funding to meet those community needs and visions. So my last slide of just ways to support the Lincoln Public Transit here in the Dalles. One is just, sharing out information about us, about our routes and services, letting folks know that we are out there in the community, sending people to our website or our offices. Riding transit is always a great way to support us. Buying the Gorge Pass from the link. We do share our funds across the region, but if you buy from us, then more money goes to the link, which is great. Additional funding always allows us to continue to expand our service and leverage additional grant dollars to invest in the Dalles. So I think if you have ideas about other grant opportunities or other local funding sources, we're always really interested in those partnerships. And then this is the partnership between agencies, in-kind contributions through partnerships with Public Works and Planning, and anything that allows us to kind of keep more of our funds for those capital purchases. So all different ways. And just this last slide to say thanks and let you know the folks at MCED. So you probably know Jessica Mehta, our executive director, myself, and then as I said, we do have our operations manager, Jesus, who has been there about a year, and Kathy Fitzpatrick, who many of you might know. She's our mobility manager and well connected throughout the community. So that's kind of the transportation group at MCED these days. So thank you so much for that time. I kind of rushed through those 10 minutes, but please do let me know if you have any questions, and always feel free to give me a call or email.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Drennan?
A question, statement, I guess. I was with McCog when we offloaded it to MCED, and I was on the transportation committee with MCED, and from where it was to what it is now, light years difference, and kudos to everybody at MCED for such a good job, and good luck with the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Anybody else? Okay, very thorough report. Thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing you back in 1 year.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you. Item 5B on the agenda is the Dallas Chamber of Commerce Annual Report. Lisa Farquharson, please introduce yourself and proceed.
Making sure I have all the right buttons off and on. So I'm Lisa Farquharson. I am the CEO and for the Dallas Chamber and the Visitor Center. And I am here to give my annual report that we do for the contract that we carry with the city for the promotion marketing arm for the city of the Dalles and the Visitor Center that we do. And taking care of our visitors that come to us frequently to our front doors. I am actually going to flip this on and see if I can do this all correctly. I can cheat by looking up there at the same time. All right, this works. This is great to be back in person. It's been too long. It's been a couple years since we've done this presentation face to face. So I wanted to, you have the basic annual report that we've done. The very first part of this, I'm just going to scroll through quickly. This is what we sent in a year ago for the proposal of our work plan that we do for the city of the Dalles, along with that budget. So this is for the 21-22 fiscal year, which is coming to an end already, the end of June. And so we went thoroughly through this. Obviously, some things changed the year before with COVID, and then again with some more COVID shutdowns and different regulations and stipulations about what we could do for visiting, traveling, and for our businesses. So during this whole time, our chamber has continued to market, because if you stop, you will lose that momentum. So we worked hard with the city in keeping that budget, even though our hotels did not have near the stays that they did or what we were projecting. 2 years ago, we projected a 50% loss, and I think we probably came out between 50 to 60 was our occupancy, and we were projecting 50. So we were fairly close with those projections, and I'm really glad that we took that and said, no, we can only do half a budget. Last year, we worked with the city team again, and we did 75% of the 2019 budget. And as you can imagine, 2019 things were a little cheaper. Labor was a little less, printing was less, marketing was less. So that 75% budget, we stretched it as far as we could this year with the raising costs. But I am happy to report, and I'm going to take you guys directly. Sorry, this has taken me a little while to get through, but if I do something else, I'm afraid I'm going to mess it up. I want you guys to go to this number 2 tab in your book that I brought you guys tonight. This is the lodging report. We're going to go straight to some stats that I'm happy to report out of all of this, where we are. So I will get there just in one moment. So on your lodging report, we get this from Travel Oregon, just so you know. This is created with a third party that they have. They do a sampling of our different hotels. Not all of the hotels are included in this, a large portion. And we happen to know this is Wasco County on the reports, but we've talked to them. And the only hotels that they sample from are from the Dalles. So we're almost all the way there. This is our data that we get to own and use. And right now, it's the best data that we do have to measure what our tourism is doing. The lodging report is the one piece that gives us a true measure as to our working. And if you look, right. So this is broken out from July of last year to June of this year. And obviously we don't have the reports from March through June. The lodging reports don't come out until the end of the month following the month that we're trying to get the numbers for. But I want you to look, we included, normally we just do 2 years, the 21, 22, and then the 20, 21. But we went ahead and put the 2019, 20 in there because we wanted you to refer back to the most, our best numbers so far. We were building a momentum in tourism. We were getting our numbers built up. We were having more stays, more activities, more events, more visitors, and all of that. So I want you to refer back to the 2019-20. You will see this past year, even with not everything open, masks are still enforced at this time. There was only 1 month that we were not at the 2019 rates or above, and that was August of last year. So we are well exceeding our numbers of 2019. The other factor to take into this is that our hotel rates are actually higher because of demand, because of today, because of rates, because of labor, cost, and everything. The hotel rates have increased quite a bit, about 8.99% overall. That's the average. So what comes to the city for those tourism dollars is the top 6%. So your rate, no matter what it is, they get that top 6, and that's that little hotel tax fee, and that's coming to the city. So we should be at or exceeding what we were able to collect in 2019, which is amazing. I mean, that is awesome to be coming out of this and having those kinds of information and those kinds of dollars coming into our community. I want to give you a quick example. You do not have this on your sheet of paper. This is my cheat sheet. Just so you have an idea what that means for hotels. I'm going to reflect on January, and this is something I shared with Julie already earlier. Our January lodging this last year was at the 47.1% occupancy. It doesn't seem like a lot, but this is the deadest month of the year, January. People are already done traveling. They're already done with the holidays. They are staying put, and the weather kind of helps them stay put. And so with that, we have figured out an average tourist overnight. It has reduced greatly because of the pandemic. They're spending a little tiny bit less, but they are going and doing things. They average $293 a day. That includes their hotel. So they got food, restaurant, going out and getting fuel, shopping. Now, if they visit a welcome center, they're more apt to spend $490 a day. We're going to use the lower one, the $293. I want to stay conservative. And so if they come and you have a demand, and we totaled up how many rooms were occupied for the entire month of January, which was 12,107 rooms. Now, that's still kind of a sample. And then if you multiply that times $293 a day, come out to 3,547,150. That is huge. That's what stayed in the Dows for the month of January because of the people staying in the home. Our deadest month, and yet it still was $3.5 million were stayed in our now. That pays for fuel, that pays for restaurants, our labor, our hotels, supplies. Some of those people were broke down because of the weather that we had. So they were getting tires, they were getting their cars fixed. They were in hotels, they were in, some were in the hospital. Some are staying at our veterans hospital and the families are staying at their hotels. So there's all different kinds of factors that go into that. But for the deadest month of the year, we kept $3 million into this community strictly from our hotel guests. I just wanted to give you a little picture of what these numbers might imply when you're looking at these percentages that are jumping up, especially let's look at February, 16.3% increase over 2019. We're still in the winter months there. So I'm actually excited to see what we do for the rest of this year and where that's going to put us on that tourism piece of it. So before I go on to your next little bit, I'm going to just highlight and then kind of highlight what we've done. And if you want to ask questions in between, please ask away. It's actually almost easier when you're presenting facts like this. Is there any questions on the lodging piece?
Now, those numbers are, the occupancy numbers, so if they're up that much and the rates are up, that means our revenues are up
Yes.
at least that much, right?
Your revenues are actually higher than what they were in 2019 right now.
Maybe, Julie, could you, the lodging tax goes obviously into the city's general fund. It also goes to.
Right, and the transient room tax, we do a budget issue paper on every year to show you like kind of coloring the money so you understand where that revenue goes, because by ordinance, a specific amount needs to go to tourism promotion.
Mhm.
So that includes the chamber's tourism contract and then a variety of other things.
Like the Park District.
The Park District gets 2% of all the taxes.
Okay, thank you. Any other quick questions for Julie or for Lisa
For me.
Either one.
or Lisa or Julie?
We talk a lot about tourism. So if you go to the next tab in 3, I'm just going to briefly just tell you what this is. It's very, just tells you exactly. We keep track at the chamber of who walks in, who calls us, if we send relocation packets, if we're sending welcome packets, if we've done brochures with the cruise boats for the Charm Trail, which we kind of took a break just for the last couple of years for lots of different reasons. If we've done a bulk mailing have to do with tourism and promotion, or if we've paid postage specifically targeted to the tourism pieces. And then we also like to keep track of where our visitors come from when they do walk in. So we try to capture which states they are from and all those different facts. And then at the bottom, you can see a comparison of where we were from 2012 all the way through 2020, just so you guys have a reference of some of our history. Now you see the last 2 and 3 years, obviously things have gone quite a ways down as far as walk-ins and those types of pieces, but we are getting the attention on our websites, we're getting the emails, and also asking us by phone, what is there to do? Our community calendar is one of the most hit pages on our entire website because people are looking to see what activities and events are happening because they are wanting to just be out and do things. And so that is what that piece is. Is there any questions on that piece? Okay, I'm going to take you to the website, tab number, I believe it's 4. We also track and keep track of our analytics let me get this caught up. Sorry, I forget I have 2 different things here going at the same time. So our website and we keep track very carefully just so that we can have an idea of who our audience is, what they're doing, where they're hanging out on our pages, what pages we need to improve, and what cities are hitting us. So we have all of this on there, how many sessions per month, how many users that implies, how many page views that is, what pages are hit the most, and then what percentage of that are new visitors and what is that returning. And then we have our top cities, but we also keep track of the percentages of those ages and that demographic, female or male. This really helps us to target our marketing, where we want to do that. What are they, if it's the hiking page, all of a sudden for the next 3 months, we want to start looking, okay, then next year at this time, a month before that, we need to really be advertising our hiking. And attract more of that type of demographic that's ready to come and do those things here in this town. So that is one of the things that we try to keep track of very carefully. We just launched a new website a year ago during the pandemic. We are in the midst of still improving, adding more video, adding itineraries, trying to make that really enticing on those different pieces. And we are actually having an intern who's a creative writer who will be here this summer to actually redo all the copy. And we are looking forward to some youngness on that, so we can make sure that we're reaching all those demographics. She's also an outdoor enthusiast, so that will help with some of that hiking, biking, and those different walks and the wildflower walks. How can we make sure that we capture those audiences that are going to those places that are naturally outside of the Dalles? How can we get them back into the Dalles when they're done having that experience? So those are those parts and pieces that we're always looking to improve. One of the things that we are adding as a chamber, because I'm a visitor center and contractor for tourism, but we're also a chamber, and the part of those things is the tourism promotes everyone, and the chamber really focuses in on our businesses. But as a chamber, we are restructuring our website, which will have a marketplace platform, and our businesses will be able to sell trips, packages, itineraries, experiences, and product on our marketplace that goes directly to them. We are just providing a platform, and it will all be set up so it goes right to their merchant market, or their merchant account. And we don't handle any of the money. We're just helping to promote our businesses. It builds up our awareness. It gets our better SEO. It also gives our businesses 2 different or 3 different places to put their product, which helps build that awareness once again for the Dalles overall. So the chamber is constantly trying to find different ways. In our new website, we will also have what's truly a community calendar. And I haven't even had a chance to talk to Julia yet. This community calendar actually is a piece that can be embedded on everybody's website, and they have their own tab. So when they come to the chambers, they're going to see that the city put all of this information in, and it's under the city. You have all of your items. If someone was at let's just say the radio station, they put all of their events that they do, and their customers can put it in right on their website. But when you come to ours, you can see every one of those tabs individually, or the whole thing filled up. So we're looking at that aspect. We're still learning and being trained on how that all works. But we're excited about the possibilities of having a real community calendar that captures everybody's things, but still gives it the ability to look at those separately. So it's not all mixed in or overwhelming. So those are some of the things that we're trying to work on to improve. So any questions on the web? It's pretty straightforward, but I want to make sure I answer anything. Okay, so we're going to go right to number 6, advertising, which is what we do everywhere, anywhere, and anytime we can. So this is just a sampling of some of the ads that we have done over the past few months. Some of these are in outdoor recreation. Some of these are on the web, and some of these are in Oregon 1859 magazine. Some of them might be in a guide, fishing guide. We actually advertise in the ODF and W guide. That one is hung onto for an entire year, and we make sure that we get in close to where our region is, and it talks about the Dalles, and it shows different things to do as far as outdoor activities. And it's pretty low cost, but we're there and we're present. So that's kind of what we're looking at, is how do we be present? One of the things that we did this last year for advertising is that we took a risk. And I mentioned this at one of our quarterly reports. We decided to invest in KOIN TV and KATU TV last summer. Everybody was competing for the tourist all at the same time across the world. We had to spend some dollars to be competitive with some of our neighbors and some of our region, and actually some of our state and the Northwest, in order to get visitors here. And our businesses were starving. We have to. We're about 60 75% reliant on tourism dollars for some of our businesses. So we invested very heavily in coin and did a campaign for July. And we invested very heavily and did a campaign with KATU in August. Those were very expensive and took a big chunk. But if you go back to your lodging report, August was down. July and September were above where we were in 2019. And that was out of the gate for summer. And we were able to raise those numbers with the awareness and getting people here and getting our occupancy up. So we're looking this year to do that again, very specifically, very intentionally. We took a risk. We weren't sure how it was going to turn out. And now I have a better idea how to do some of these campaigns. So that's why our budget this year is a little bit heavier. I really want to invest and do some larger campaigns in hopes that it can help on the shoulder seasons, especially for the Dalles in building up that so that we have a better all year round in our lodging. Any questions on the ads? Like I said, I'm going to go right through this. Okay, this is my favorite. Yes.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. On your proposed tourism budget under marketing, it goes from 70,000 to about 125. That's the biggest single increase. Is that for the television campaigns?
Okay, so where are you at now?
He's back on your budget.
I'm on the budget.
You're on the budget. You skipped way ahead.
You actually referenced it, so I wanted to ask you about it.
Open the
Okay.
door.
Let me get there.
Said you wanted to spend more on the television campaigns. You thought they were more effective, or you'd learn how to be really effective
Yes,
with those. Is
that
that what
is-
that's for? Thank you.
All right, I just had to get to that page. So I make sure I give you the right answer.
Well, a little bit also is that this budget that's proposed is reflective of 100% operation, which we haven't had for 2 years previous.
So, all right, so because I'm a number geek, this next tab, number 6, is my favorite. So this is media coverage. And as you can imagine, it's really hard to measure tourism, like I said. So your lodging is one of them that helps with those facts. The other one is we can actually go back if we've had an ad, a story, a video, we can go back to some of these places and we can get their analytics for their website. So we know how many average web hits they get, how many average readers are to each of those stories and those different things. So I've given you a list of things that we knew about or coordinated or were aware of. Now, not everything in this list was because the chamber. Some of this is because we just have amazing businesses that do their own reaching out. Some of it's just stories that happened because it was a positive story and someone picked it up. But there are things that we do to push these stories. And so I tried to compile a list as best as we could with all of the ones that we knew about. On the right-hand side, you're going to see there is a distribution, traffic, and readership. Different publications measure things differently. So there is a distribution where they send out 500,000 copies of the Time magazine. So we know it goes out. Well, that is getting out to the hands you hope that it will get out to the different hands and you hope people will read it. That's a distribution number. Traffic is actually measured numbers online for digital. So readership is what we have found. They may not have an exact number how many newspapers got anywhere, but they did have a way to calculate how many people were actually reading because of some things that they've done to get those numbers. So we have 3 different sets of numbers, but if you scroll, I'll scroll. If you go all the way to the last page of that report, we've totaled up what's happened just since July 1 of last year. You will see that in that traffic number, which this is huge because this is the online presence. They're seeing our articles, they're seeing the video, they've seen the TV show, all of those. We are at 1 billion, 1.5 billion for our exposure for specifically things about the Dalles. So this is a huge number and I'll let you, so you got this digitally, correct? Or no, you will get this digitally. This is the report that Izetta will send out to you digitally. You'll be able to click on these links that say click here for story, and you can go through those different links and read those stories or the ones that say video, and that will take you to that story that was aired. And I will tell you right now, part of our boost that happened was the Discovery Channel with the episode of the monsters, and it was on sturgeon, and they did it in Lake Chelan and also here. Well, we were picked up in stories in Seattle, Portland, in Bend, and a couple other outlying cities picked up that story about Lake Chelan and the Dalles, and we were all over the place, including being broadcasted on Animal Planet with that TV show. So they were a fun crew. I took him out to dinner, and it was the first time anybody in all of the movies, all the shows that he's done in filming, the first time any city had greeted him. Very first time, which blew me away. I had goodies bags for them. I took them out to dinner. We took them to Barjoy. We took them to Shiloh. We took them Grinders coffee because they were all dragging one morning. So they had never, ever been treated like that by any city that they filmed in. So they still communicate with them. It's always great to have that relationship and that connection. So, and they want to come back. So that is one of the factors in here that we work hard to do. We have fun doing it. It's an amazing story to be able to do that. So is there any questions on that before I go into some of what I hope to do? Okay. Try to keep it brief. This is just the exciting part of what I do. So this is my proposed marketing work plan. You'll see some very similar basic things, overviews that we've always put in, our objectives, our targeted audience. We're always looking to see those because of the type of community that we have, what that means that we can bring in. Our targeted areas, we tend to do better with areas that are 5 hours or less drivability. And so we really try to target those with ads, different things that are going on. This is where my ask is a little bit different than normal. You will see a new data tool. It's called Datafy. We found out about this in the industry, and I told you a couple times, our tourism measurements are the hardest ones to measure. We rely on the hotel lodging tax. We rely on businesses telling us if they did good or bad. And then we also rely on looking to see if our advertisements have an analytic to go behind it. They have developed a new tool. It is called Datafy. The scary part of it is big brother in the sky. They are collecting data, but they're going to collect it no matter what. So Wave found a way to retrieve that information for tourism benefits. So they can set up, it's a geofencing, and they can set it up to just your lodging property or just your downtown, or your attractions can have a fence around them, or even the cruise dock can have a fence around them. Or you can do events, or you can do all of those because you can set up so many geofences. So every month you receive data on those different parts and pieces. That data is all done through cell phone usage. And then we receive the reports and we can disseminate those to our partners to help us look at who is visiting us, because it will tell us where they came from, what zip code they came from. It tells us if they have that data, if it's a female or a male, or even their ages. But we can see which stores they're going to. We can see if they're at certain attractions. We can see our numbers at events. So finally, maybe I can know exactly how many people come to Cherry Festival, because we're just stabbing right now. We're counting people on a block, and then every 3 hours counting them again, and then doing the average. But now we can see, but we could also see what those spending habits are. Are they running to a restaurant? Are they going to a store? Are they just seeing the attractions, or are they going off and doing the hikes? You know, they're disappearing off that grid, which means they're not doing an activity in our downtown. This data is crucial, and all the DMOs are so excited. And DMO is what I am for Travel Oregon's definition. I'm a destination marketing organization. So we're super excited about this. Yes, we're all a little geeky when it comes to numbers, but these are numbers that can help us exactly look at who's the demographic I need to attract, because this is who's coming. This is who's making it here. How do I get more of them? Who's spending money? Because those are the ones I really want to attract. You know, are they getting to the attractions? Okay, how did they get there? You know, did they just show up? Are they just going there? Or are they visiting the rest of our town after they're done? So we can look at some of these patterns and some of these things all from this data. It is not cheap. It is pretty expensive. I'll be upfront, it's $20,000 a year. And that's why I'm asking for it from the tourism, from the people who are staying at our hotels and paying that transient room tax, not from our property taxes, not from economic development, even though it's going to help us drive our economic development from a tourism angle. I'm asking for it from the tourism piece to pay for this. And then I will be sharing these reports with all of our partners because this could help with our college. It could help with our port, it could help with our city, Main Street. It could help so many different things in being able to back some of this thing up with data. What works, what doesn't work? How do we make it better? So that is one of the tools that I'm asking for in the budget. So that's part of the increase on that. And it's a separate line item in that budget. I'm going to quickly, do you have any questions on that before I go on to just highlight some of these other things?
Have there been a lot of other cities or chambers that have utilized this?
3 right now, and you know one of them. Cannon Beach is one. Jim could not believe the data he's getting. And he's the director there for the Cannon Beach Chamber and Visitor Center. And he said it is telling a story that he's never got to see before. And it's given him an understanding of really how to better target those tourists and how to have a better tourist, one that might spend more money but leave less of a footprint. And so those are some things that he's looking at with those pieces. Our region is looking, but if our region does it for the Mount Hood Gorge region, which is dictated by Travel Oregon, we would only be able to have one little tiny aspect because they would have to do an entire region with one subscription. And I really want to sink my teeth into this and be able to do that. There are several other chambers that are looking at this. We just heard about it in the last couple of years. And so I've been trying to figure out, I applied for a grant twice and did not receive the grant funding for those things, but it's so new and it's very tourism driven. So it was understandable why those grants were not awarded. The other piece with this is once you sign up, you do receive 3 years of historical data. So that is something that they've done as far as a policy so that the chamber or visitor center has something to compare to. They have a trend to look at. They can see some of those patterns and not just giving them 1 year and then having to wait 3 years to build that so they can see where that trend and pattern's going. You do get 3 years of historical data with it. So I might be looking at my computer screen for a while if I do this. But I am excited because we're always wondering which avenue, which markets, where do we want to go? How do we want to do this so that we do a better job for our entire community? Any other questions on that piece of it? I'm going to fly through some of the rest of this. Some of this is very self-explanatory and I've touched base a little bit. We have many different avenues that we use, social medias, video, the TV, the radio ads, and print marketing, some of those. And then we've done different campaigns as far as all stemming and coming from Explore the Dalles, keeping with that brand and keeping consistent. And it does work. It's a very good brand that causes people to explore our community, not just visit, stop by, say hi, not just come to or drive through. So explore gives them that verb and that action of really checking out our entire community. We are one of the newer partners and things that we're doing is the East Gorge Food Trail. And we're working with Travel Oregon and the Columbia Gorge Tourism Alliance. That is been in presence for a couple of years. Travel Oregon has it on their website. We're trying to look at more ways to beef that up. And I think I found one. For the East Gorge Food Trail, we are now working with a small syndicated TV show that has 2 aspects. One is total hunting and fishing, but one is field to table, and it's all food and chefs and cooking. And so he wants to come and videotape some of our chefs preparing recipes with locally sourced foods. And then that would air on his TV show with our commercial. And we would be emphasizing the East Gorge Trail with that. So we can highlight and promote our different places that do that. And that's from restaurants to farmers markets. So the Baldwin has got locally sourced, Bargeway's on that, Teed is on that. I believe Kainos is on that too. So there's several of our restaurants that are a part of that East Gorge, including Sandoz Farm and Muirhead Cannery. So it brings in abroad, and almost all of our farmers market that has anything are included in that gorge. So those are some of the other things that we are working on. The work plan overview basically is running that visitor center, making sure that it's the most friendly, up-to-date, current, and available to our customers as much as possible. That's also making sure our website is available to them and phone calling. We go through three different aspects of touch points, and that's in person, web, and phone. And so we're constantly looking at those to see how we can make it better and more inviting. Community marketing, it's basically overviews with you, where I go, what I do, who we work with, how we work with them. Quick update, trade shows. We got to do them this year. We did the Portland Sportsman Show and we did the Redmond Sportsman Show. For the first time was Redmond, because the last time we tried, it got canceled. And so we were there and it was very interesting. We got emails so that we can be sending out tourism e-letters. Bend was much more receptive. We had a lot of fun with the Bend customers versus the Portland. We were able to get a higher percentage of emails compared to the people that were there, what we did with Portland. And Bend was all excited that we're doing the Cherry Festival and they were ready to come. They asked about the 4th of July. They knew about the cruise in. So they keep track of what we're doing up here. And so we were able to talk to several people and encourage them to come to the Dalles for the different events that they were looking at. Partnerships, we have quite a list there. We work with many in trying to make sure that that footprint that we have of broadcasting and promotion is as big as we can. Goals and objectives, these are some similar ones to what I've had. Basically, that community marketing. I'm looking always for a measurable outcome. And that's one of the things I was pushing is I'm really hoping with that Datafy, we can have a better report and better idea of who is really visiting us and how much. Personnel, all of us work on everything. We've got visitor services, marketing promotions, and then admin. And here's the number page. This is the budget that I'm asking for the 22-23 fiscal year. You'll see that there is quite an increase, but as Julie mentioned, we're finally at a full budget because we're finally fully open, fully operational, and ready to embrace tourists coming into our visitors center and to our community. So we have upped our labor, obviously, as you've known from watching this last 6 months. Labor has become difficult to find and very expensive. We want professional team taking care of our customers in different aspects. We need to do that and meet them at that. The rest of it is kind of increases just because of cost of inflation and different things, but we have kept the rent the same. It's exactly the same of where it was probably about 5 years ago. We love partnering with the city, and we feel like it's a natural partnership to have the chamber also be the information center for visitors. So those things are just a reflection of that. And as Dan noted earlier, our marketing is quite a bit more, and we're going to need more if we want to compete. I can tell you right now, that's my biggest frustration. Sometimes it's not frustrated at our community. It's just I hear of other places who are high in their tourist numbers, and then they tell me their budget that they have for marketing. And it's a little surprising and shocking. It's like, okay, we need to step it up if we can. And so I hope to incrementally over the next few years, raise that up so that we're doing beefier, bigger campaigns to help with our tourism of that. Public relations is working with the digital marketing. Once I have information of where to be attacking, I will be, because obviously that gets us bigger impressions, as you saw on the traffic on those stories. And then the tourism grants, if some of you are not familiar, this program started a long time ago where we give out event grants through the TRT, the transient room tax. Someone's doing an event, they can apply for a grant, and this goes towards their marketing effort so that they can be advertising and pushing and promoting, whether it's making flyers and posters or putting ads on digital or actually purchasing ads to give them a boost, because we know that that's the most expensive part to this. We will aid them, help them, support them. And a lot of people have come to us. It's like, okay, how do you do this? How did you promote this and that? So we do help them and support, but we are asking for more dollars. Our businesses are still hurting. We feel like 2,000 is still low, but if we ask for 30,000 for those grants, we're able to award 15 of them over this next year of $2,000 each. And that can go a long ways with some of these smaller grassroots events that are still getting attention and pulling. And then obviously printing and binding, we do the Explore the Dalles brochure, and printing is a little bit more expensive now. And so we are distributing those through the certified folder program at the Travel Oregon's main gateways. And then we're taking those to trade shows and having them in the lobby. And we work on getting those outward to any places that we can. And we're working with visitor centers that are not necessarily with certified folder. We swap. We'll send them a box and they send us a box of things, brochures, just so that we can help cross promote each other. And some of that cross promoting is from one corner to the other of the state of Oregon. But visitor centers like to help each other and work that way. So that's one of those aspects that we do. I have just quick couple highlights, but is there any questions before that?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, Counselor Long.
Thank you. Lisa, you have so much fascinating data. It's just increased exponentially over the last 5-6 years that I've been listening to your reports. It's amazing. One thing I'm just curious about, and thanks for sending the electronic file, by the way, so that I could go through it with everybody else. Do we know how many people are repeat visitors? So like they've come here in the past and they decided to come back and see more?
I do not.
Okay.
But I would if I had Datify. Thank you for that segue right there. No, actually, it would help me because it's based on a cell number and a zip code. So then I would be able to track and see if that happens again and be able to see those returning visitors. Now, if they don't use their cell phone the way that we hope they do, that, you know, that's that part that we take a risk on. But for the most part, it does track by cell number and zip. So we would be able to see at least some repeated patterns. So like just say this person from John Day, and then the next year, another John Day zip code, and then the next year, another John Day zip code. Well, I need to talk to the travel agent down there because they're doing a really good job. Or it's that repeat visitor, and is it for a specific event? So then we can start looking actually and drill down in that data and know, oh, it's every July 4th, they come up and see the fireworks, or they're coming up for the cruise in to see that all the time. So there's some things that we can do by cross-referencing that data with the dates and the cell numbers.
Yeah, oddly enough, this morning I just watched a segment on the collection of data like that and how they cross-reference it with so many other sources that they can really know a lot about somebody more than just where that cell phone number went, but right down to how old they are and, you know, all kinds of crazy stuff, which is a huge violation of our privacy. And then we turn around and want to use it for good. So
I know. So
kind of exciting though, for that purpose.
It happens. So I might as well take advantage of it. Right.
I agree. Thank you.
Yes. So just real quick, Token Wall was a program that the city funded for us during COVID. It was to support small businesses and to help businesses get people there in the midst of craziness. And we were able to do that. We have 34 businesses participating and we still have room for more. It did not cost the businesses anything because of the grant from the city to do this program. And you'll see in your little packets on your desk, each one of you have one of those tokens, a different one. So you might have to trade if one of you doesn't go to that business. But they're basically coupons and they're very unique and they're wood from the workshop. And it has done a tremendous fun business what we do is a person comes in, they said, oh, well, I really kind of want to do wine tasting, but I like this and this. So we go and gather the particular tokens that meet their likes. And we've just given them a little bag for an experience with a little discount at each one of those businesses.
So
And
they're
they
not
love-
chocolate.
No, chocolate's only for a few people and I gave it to you guys.
Oh.
Darcy, yours is sitting here waiting for you. So.
I will
um,
definitely come get it.
Okay, so that
I'm
token
well.
wall, and we just have to say thank you. It has been a huge success. We also use those coupons in promo baskets. So when we send them somewhere else, we decorate it up with the little tokens inside of it, and people just love it. They love the whole program. So it's getting attention and it's getting people into the businesses. I was trying to think, FAM tours, just real quick, get to have them again. This is where I work with the publications one-on-one. I will bring them in and we woo them and we wine and dine them in hopes that they'll fall in love with our community, which isn't really hard. And then they'll do a feature written in a publication itself or on the web. And we know already that the written features bring in a lot higher demographic and results from that trafficking and that different pieces on the web and getting us a better exposure. So we try our hardest to really make sure that we're getting out and doing those publications with those FAM tours. And we're excited. Both our region and us will be doing FAM tours. Again, I've already got one gentleman lined up. He is an editor for 4 different magazines. So I have a better chance of getting those because not all the publications will print, even though you pitch a story. So we are trying to be very picky and choosy about who we are bringing in. And when we do that, and when we tell them that we pay the expenses, they're more apt to come. A lot of our publications are hurting because nobody had advertising dollars the last 2 years to advertise them. They are still being read and still being purchased. So those are some things that we are trying to do that. Last 2 comments before more questions. Chamber is constantly trying to make sure that we're at the table in other establishments, other organizations, and other boards. I want you to know this past fall, I was appointed by Governor Brown to sit on the historic Columbia River Highway Advisory Committee. And so I now sit on that committee. It took a little process, but that way the Dalles is at the table, especially with that trail ending in the Dalles. I'll have you know the tunnel has now been all the way blasted through. You can walk all the way through the tunnel, just not right now, but you can see all the way to the other end of the tunnel. And so they are making progress. But that way I can stay informed and be able to communicate back to you where that progress is happening. Because once it's done, we're going to have bicycle traffic like we've never seen before. And that is going to be one of the longer routes in the Northwest for biking, and people are going to be riding it. So I want to be stayed informed and in making sure the Dalles is at the table. I also am the treasurer for the Oregon State Chamber Board. So I'm making sure that we're at the table so our voices have a little bit bigger footprint and bigger impact when it comes to needs of our businesses here. We made sure that I was remained active with that group during some of the pandemic legislation and just making sure that we got that information to the businesses and that feedback was getting right back to the Oregon State Chamber, so that we can do what we can to help our businesses stay successful in our community. So those are just a couple of the places that I try to be at so that we can have a bigger impact for our community. Any questions now that I just.
Any questions for Lisa? Any more questions?
May I
You're
make,
missing an income page where all of your income comes from. We just have the spending page.
the
I don't get my
We
income,
don't get any.
the
contract,
contract.
Okay, but there are other grants and other things that fund the chamber besides the city, correct?
So the chamber is funded from membership, but that's the chamber's piece of it. This is strictly a contract to do the promotions and marketing. So, and just like any other contractor, you wouldn't be asking a contractor what is their full revenues, even though you're one contract of that. So the chamber is a private nonprofit. We are supported by membership dues. But this contract with the city is spelled out exactly what we have to do perform and provide for the city. We enjoy doing that.
How much did we do last year?
It's on your back page on the budget, right before the 8th tab. I went and put the 2019-20, the 2021, and the 21-22, and then what we're asking for 22. but a comparison. We were at 50% of budget for the 2021. We were at 75, a little over 75 because we had some additional funds come in for the 21-22. But for the 2019-20, it was a full budget at that time.
And this will be, this has been put in the city's budget for 2022-23 and will be the subject of our budget committee meeting on, do we know when that is yet? May 2nd, is it? May 2nd? Yeah.
It's his full amount.
Right.
Yes. That's what we proposed.
That's what I was trying to get out.
Sorry.
Did you have a
Yes.
comment, Julie?
I do have
Yeah.
one comment. While you were operating at 50% and about 50% staff, you took on 2 grant cycles for the city so that we had the money in our economic recovery funds and we were having trouble getting that money out the door to the businesses that were hurting. And I just want to say thank you. That was a lot of work.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And we did the same thing with Google at the same time. There was 3 different
Yeah,
grants
yeah.
within 6 months, but it made a huge difference for our businesses. And there was nothing more gratifying between that and the PPE program of giving them boxes of supplies. We
Yeah.
did $1.2 million
Yeah,
to those businesses. And it was like Christmas every day.
it really was. And it was just amazing to me that you may not have been able to do a lot with tourism because people weren't out and about, but you saved a lot of businesses and I just appreciate you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see you back here on May 2nd.
Sounds great.
Okay, item 5C is our employee recognition program. The employee recognition program for the city of the Dalles recognizes employees annually in 3 areas: excellent customer service, innovative thinker, and team player. Both employees and city council members may nominate a deserving employee in one of 3 areas, those 3 areas. The mayor, city manager, and human resources director review the nominations annually and select the winner based on each area. While all nominations received were very strong, the winners were unanimously selected by the review group and have or already have received a plaque. I'll hold up the plaque. This is what they look like. All 3 of our award winners are with us tonight. The first one I'm going to introduce is Jill Hoyanga in our Public Works Department. She's on our Zoom screen up there. She just waved to us. Jill was nominated and is receiving the award for the Team Player Award, and she was nominated by Eric Hansen, Assistant Public Works Director. The following bullet points are just a few of the reasons why I would like to nominate Jill for the Team Player Award. Jill has taken on additional tasks and has excelled in those areas, which include the risk and resilience assessment and the emergency response plan, which saved the city an estimated $50,000 as those projects were planned to be contracted, as well as the local limits program and the mercury minimization plan. Jill has the ability to multitask and complete all of her duties on time. Timelines for regulatory compliance can be challenging to adhere to, but Jill routinely stays on schedule. Communication with our customers is a key element in the industrial pretreatment program, and Jill excels in this area. Her documentation of contact and conversations is unparalleled. Her language and press releases are clear and to the point, which is desirable for our citizens. In addition to her public works duties, she has taken on strong roles in the city's website update and records retention systems. Congratulations, Jill. How about a nice hand for Jill?
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's my honor to serve.
The next award is goes to Officer Sam Perez for the Excellent Customer Service Award. Officer Perez is with us tonight. He has been nominated by the Chief of Police, Tom Worthy. Officer Perez has demonstrated exemplary customer service, aptitude, and attitude toward his job as a police officer for the city of the Dalles this year. Officer Perez never hesitates to take on any call or assignment and approaches his work with a positive attitude that is reflected in his interactions with the public. Officer Perez is known to interact frequently with the homeless population and to seek out solutions that benefit the individual and the community. Officer Perez works with the underprivileged in our identification assistance program, helping people without identification receive valid identification that can be the doorway to employment, services, or housing. Officer Perez actively passes on his knowledge and skills to new officers as a field training officer, ensuring that this approach to service will continue within the department. Officer Perez is well known within the Spanish-speaking community and serves as a valuable conduit between the department and this community. Officer Perez accomplishes this all while consistently having some of the highest activity levels of any officer in the department. I highly recommend Officer Perez for the Excellence in Customer Service Award. Congratulations, Officer Perez. Would you like to introduce your sidekick to the? Okay. Okay. Well, congratulations to him too for having a great dad. So, okay, our final one was supposed to be a surprise tonight, but I was told that this individual does not like surprises. So I went ahead and broke the news to her about an hour ago that she is the recipient of our Team Player Award, and that would be our city clerk, Izetta Grossman. She was nominated by Jill Hoyanga in the Public Works Department. Izetta Grossman is an exceptionally innovative thought leader. She routinely seeks new and more efficient work methods. I'm writing this recommendation because of her leadership in developing a new website platform. I am honored to be a member of the website development team. Izetta's style of collaborative leadership has boosted the team to that magic place of the whole being the sum of the parts. Notable attributes include, she included the team in the website developer selection process. It was clear from the 3 interviews conducted that she had done substantial research before selecting the finalists. The whole team was satisfied with the selected contractor. She has held a clear vision for the new citizen customer user interface with the goal of making the website the city's front office. Yet she invited the team to give many meaningful input on the look and feel of the new website. She has been cheerful and practical through many challenges of building a new website. Her upbeat manner in the face of each challenge has helped pull the team into problem-solving mode while keeping every member of the team on board. In short, Izetta is always great to work with, but this year she really went the extra mile by taking on the ambitious website upgrade project. I might also add that I think she deserves a lot of credit for what she did with the council chambers, the renovations here. So with that, I'd like to ask her to come up and get her plaque. Thank you. Come on, how about a nice hand for Izetta? Just lost it. There it is. Congratulations.
Everyone else already got it. You got the line right.
I don't know about you, but I wish we had been able to surprise her. See the look on her
No, you
face.
don't.
Okay, item 6 is audience participation. During this portion of the meeting, anyone may speak on any subject which does not later appear on the agenda. Up to 5 minutes per person will be allowed. Citizens are encouraged to ask questions with the understanding that the city can either answer the question tonight or refer that question to the appropriate staff member who will get back to you within a reasonable amount of time. If a response by the city is requested, the speaker will be referred to the city manager for further action. The issue may appear on a future meeting agenda for city council consideration. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to the city council or on Zoom for up to 5 minutes? Mr. Brown, please give us your address for the record.
For my wildest dreams, did I expect to be sitting in front of the council, asking them to generously fund the police department, because we don't have enough police presence in this town. We need a police presence that's proactive, not reactive. And code enforcement's the same way. I think there should be another half-time person in code enforcement. Those 2 pieces, the police and the code enforcement, are probably the most important pieces, the foundation of the quality of life in this town. We need to do something about it. We need to do it soon. I know there's been some trainees and whatever they call it, cadets, whatever you want to call it. People are a year out. We need a police department that's proactive. grill hasn't been stolen off your porch or your catalytic converter off of your car or your car stolen. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It's happening a lot. I don't know how many of you really know about what the statistics are, but you can walk across the street and the police department. You really need to know what they are. Things aren't as peachy as you think they are. Really all I got. Normally, I'll be back next time
Welcome back.
on the streets.
And I don't think there's anybody here on the council that would disagree. And I do think that we do have numerous shortages in the police department, brought about by a lot of either transfers. We're trying to attract more police officers with $10,000 bonus programs. And we also have a problem attracting police officers in this day and age, as well as other cities. But I'm confident we're going to be back up to full strength, hopefully within a year, and we'll be addressing some of the problems you've rightfully brought up. Thank you.
I'm curious to know what the difference in our starting pay is over what Portland City Police starting pay is.
Mhm.
I mean, I can't afford to get public information. It's way too expensive, but
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address the city council for up to 5 minutes? Going once? Oh, go ahead. Please give us your name and address, Ms. Dewey.
My name is Jennifer Dewey and my address is 383 Summit Ridge. I just wanted to say thank you for coming out to the meeting that the business owners had a couple weeks ago. And I think it was a great starting point for conversations. I also wanted to say thank you for that following week. I saw some things that changed. And so honestly, it's inspiring to know that things can move and that they are in motion, And so I want to say thank you. I thank you for all of you that came, that were invited and came to it, and I appreciate it. So, and I go along with Mr. Brown's sentiments too. Police department needs to be funded and not, I would look at bonuses are great, but continual pay is even better. And I think that helps out, but I do think that they need support, and they need support from the DA's office in order to feel good about the job when they get going. So just encouragement on that too. So anyway, I don't always complain. I do say thank you. So.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Last call, going once, twice. Anybody on Zoom? No? Okay, thank you all very much. Item 7, city manager's report.
I do not have a report for you tonight.
She does not have a report tonight. City council will start with Councilor Long.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So over the last 2 weeks, I basically just had a bunch of meetings. I met with you and some other counselors. I met with community members and also community partners.
Thank you. Councilor McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mayor Mays. On Saturday, March 25th, the community outreach team departed for Washington, D.C. for the semi-annual trek to our national capital in pursuit of economic stimulus funding for our city and to express our consensus related to issues affecting our community. Representing our community was Marta Cronin, president of Columbia Gorge Community College, Andrea Kloss, Port of the Dalles director, Greg Weiss, Port of the Dalles president, Steve Kramer, Wasco County commissioner, and I was along on that trip. Our plane was delayed 2 hours, so we didn't arrive in Washington until after 10:30 that Saturday night. On Sunday, our team met for final preparations for Monday. Monday morning, we visited with staff of the National Association of Counties and then later with the National League of Cities. Both of these meetings produced an amazing amount of resources for grant opportunities, which thank you, Izetta, for helping me today. And those packets are on the table in front of you. In my opinion, the networking information gathered made this session extremely valuable in our quest for finding economic opportunities for our respective agencies. On Tuesday, we met with Congressman Jamie Herrera Butler, Congressman Cliff Bentz, and we had a virtual meeting with Senator Murray. Wednesday, Senator Wyden and Merkley took time from the floor of the Senate to come in and visit with us for at least 15, 20 minutes. And that was very, very good. On Thursday, we had more follow-up meetings. And then two of us departed the Reagan Airport and we arrived home at about 3 o'clock in the early morning. We were delayed because of weather from Washington, DC. Some of the projects that we talked about were Columbia Gorge Career Tech Jobs Investment seeking 1.35 million. Port of the Dalles fire recovery on July 4th, the marina had a fire out there which destroyed one portion of that. And it had a small amount of insurance, but not nearly enough to cover it. So they're seeking $1.4 million. Port of the Dalles redevelopment, industrial land acquisition, $3 million. Collaboration to create a healthy community. This is the project with the Kramer Field and the 37 acres on the Google property. So that's still pending and there's no financial ask at this time. Administrative and policy issues, Federal Forest Fire Fuels Reduction Act, which we're in support of reducing and managing the debris that falls on the forest floors, which we feel it also stimulates more fires and more drastic fires. So we would like to see a management plan. Payment in lieu of taxes and secure rural school continuing funding. Lower Snake River Dam removal. We're in opposition of the removal of those dams because of the impact on irrigation on the Columbia River. So we stated that to our elected officials. And continued EDA economic development and administration, very important for small rural communities to have that, and it's back. It used to be called earmarks, and it's now back again. And the only other thing that I bring back from this trip was the number of grants are astronomical coming out of Washington, DC, but you have to know how to apply, you have to know where to apply, and there's a procedure. So I am in favor of investigating and maybe merging and having one grant writer between all of our different entities and agencies that represent, and we can go after some of those monies in Washington, DC. That ends my report.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Randall.
Thank you, Mayor Mays. On March 30th, the Historic Landmarks Commission met and introduced a new board member. And you may recall Scott Stevenson, who gave the art committee report at the last council meeting. And on the, also they approved 2 applications from the Dalles Main Street and Wall Dogs for new murals, one at 119 East 2nd and the other at 122 East 2nd Street. And then on May 6th, met with the mayor and Council Richardson for a briefing. And that's my report.
Thank you. Council Richardson.
Well, that's a tough couple acts to follow there, Mr. Mayor, but I did attend a briefing with yourself and Councilor Randall on the 6th. I've had a couple of various constituent conversations in the last couple of weeks. And on the 31st of March, I did attend the downtown business owners meeting that Ms. Dewey referenced.
Thank you. Councilor Runyon.
Well, the local public safety coordinating council, better known as LIPSIC, met live for the first time in a year and a half at Norcor in conference room. A new juvenile director is in the works. They're going through background checks right now, but we're close to naming that individual. Met with the mayor on taxing districts with regard to the potential Google project and so forth, and a couple of citizen phone calls regarding crime and our police department doing the best job they can. No complaints there, but there are people walking about and we just all need to be aware, you know.
Thank you. As far as my report goes, I attended the same meeting alluded to by Ms. Dewey and Councilor Richardson. I'd also at this point like to compliment our police chief, Chief Tom Worthy, for fielding questions and explaining a lot of things that are going on in our community. I thought he did a great job. On April 1st, I attended the Yard of the Month celebration. Mr. Melvin Sparks got the April Yard of the Month Award. And on April the 4th, I attended some incident command training at the college. And I also attended the beautification meeting that evening, the beautification committee meeting. On April 5th, I and other members of the community outreach team met with Margie Anderson, who's an assistant for Representative Cliff Bentz. And on April 7th, I attended a regional solutions tour of the 35 acres that is being donated to the city by Google. Finally, I'd like to take this opportunity, as everyone knows by now, I'm sure, that our city manager, Julie Kruger, is retiring. Julie has spent 33 years here working for the city. She started out, many people don't know, as a planning secretary and was promoted to deputy city clerk and became our city clerk in 1992 and spent 23 years in that position. And she became the interim city manager in 2015 and was promoted to city manager in 2016. So I'd like to take this opportunity for having you join me in celebrating and recognizing Julie and her 33 years of service.
Did everything except be on the council.
I'm sure you'll forgive Julie for not making a speech at this point, at this time, maybe a little later. So, okay, item 9 is our consent agenda. Items of a routine and non-controversial nature are placed on the consent agenda to allow the city council to spend its time and energy on the more important items and issues. Any counselor may request an item be pulled from the consent agenda and be considered separately. Items pulled from the consent agenda will be placed on the agenda at the end of the action items section. Tonight, we have 3 items on the consent agenda. The approval of the March 28th City Council meeting minutes. Second, a resolution concurring with my appointment of Kelsey Elsheimer to the Beautification Committee. And we're declaring certain public works equipment as surplus property. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mayor Mays, I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Counselor McLaughlin and seconded by Counselor Long to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 10A is a contract for the annual sanitary sewer lining project. And I believe that would be Mr. McCabe.
Annual 2022 sanitary sewer lining project. For this project, we're going to be looking at PVC lining or cured in place pipe lining, approximately 4,500 feet of sanitary sewer pipe located in different locations across the community. The pipe sizes for this project will range anywhere from 8-inch to 24-inch in size and pipe. For this project, we typically try to budget $300,000 to $500,000 annually for a project similar to this. For this particular project, we had budgeted $400,000. And we prepared an engineer's estimate when we kind of put this project together several months ago. Actually, we began putting this project together last fall, and our engineer's estimate came in at $413,162, which was slightly over the budgeted amount. We received bids for this project on March 29th. We received 4 bids that were all deemed responsive. The low bid came in from Iron Horse LLC in the amount of $458,107. We feel that the difference between the low bid amount and what we kind of had for the engineer's estimate is due to the recent escalation in inflation rates, also the rising costs in constructions for both material and labor. And so, you know, we feel that low budget or that low bid amount is still deemed a responsive bid and a good number. For this project, like I said, we had $400,000 budgeted for this project in the Sewer Special Reserve Fund 56, line code 7630. Also in that same fund, we have a total amount of $1,181,285 in there. So there is sufficient funds available to cover the total bid amount of that low bid amount of $458,107. With that, staff recommends that the council authorize the city manager to enter into contract with Iron Horse LLC for the 2022 sanitary sewer CIPP lining contract number 2022-003 in an amount not to exceed $458,107. With that, I can answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. McCabe? Counselor Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. McCabe, just for my edification, roughly how long does this slip lining last, or what do you hope to get out of it for a useful lifetime?
50 plus years.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Looking for a motion.
Mayor Mays, I move to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Iron Horse LLC for the 2022 sanitary sewer SIP lining, contract number 2022-003 in an amount not to exceed $458,107.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Counselor Randall and seconded by Counselor Runyon, excuse me, to approve the contract. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 10B is a contract for our new city manager, Mr. Matthew Klebs, and I'd like to turn it over to the city attorney, Mr. Jonathan Kara.
Thank you, Mayor Mays, honorable members of City Council. On March 17th, the city had an executive session to consider the employment of a city manager as the city's chief executive officer. Following the executive session, council authorized the mayor and myself to make a tentative offer to and negotiate an employment contract with the council's top candidate following the results of those interviews. I believe he's here tonight, Mr. Matthew Klebs. And the mayor and I met with Mr. Klebs and tentatively offered the position with the understanding that the ultimate decision maker for any contract that is negotiated would be the city council. And so when the city clerk sent out this agenda packet, about 10 days ago at least, it was my sincere hope that council took time to review the agreement as we negotiated it. Mayor Mays and Matthews dealt with the substantive issues that were at play, and I handled the formalities associated with putting it all into one document. And so attached to this agenda staff report is the fruits of our labor. And so I'm happy to entertain any questions on it if any councilors or the mayor have any specific questions. But ultimately, I would hope that the council moves to authorize the mayor to execute the employment agreement for city manager with Matthew Klebs as presented.
Any questions for Mr. Kara? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to make that motion. I move to authorize the mayor to execute the employment agreement for city manager with Matthew Klebs as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Council Richardson and seconded by Council McLaughlin to approve the contract for Mr. Matthew Klebs. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Congratulations, Mr. Klebs. You come forward and say a few words.
I'll be very, very brief. I just wanted to not
Please
cry.
give your address.
Matthew Klebs, 726 East 18th Street. It's a new address, but up near the Readiness Center. And I just wanted to briefly say thank you for for accepting me as the new city manager for the city of the Dalles. And I look forward to working with all of you and with city staff on the good projects and opportunities that we'll have before us. So thank you.
Welcome aboard. I'm sure Julie will be on your speed dial as well. And
She already is.
she already is. Okay.
Thanks again.
Congratulations. We're looking forward to working with you. Okay, item 11A is a resolution accepting a portion of property on West 15th Street for public street purposes. Our Public Works Director, Mr. Dave Anderson.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and members of council. This is a culmination of quite a few years of efforts to acquire property for the future extension of West 15th Street, thereby allowing for a utility corridor to serve properties yet to be developed and a route for access. The city had previously acquired 2 parcels that are actually one on each side of the property currently owned by the Martin and Constance Nunley Revocable Living Trust. The city has, after nearly a year of negotiations, been able to negotiate a purchase price for this property of $44,199, which was found to be on the lower end of current market value for property in that area. This purchase wasn't specifically budgeted because the opportunity to acquire it came up after the current budget was developed. However, we do have funds within the street fund line code 005-0500-000.7510 to support the purchase. With this expenditure, we did anticipate this expenditure, I should say, when we projected our ending fund balances for the current fiscal year. And with this purchase, there would still be $171,438 left in that line item. With that, it's staff's recommendation that the city council move to adopt resolution number 22-012, accepting a dedication of property from the Martin and Constance Nunley Revocable Living Trust for public street purposes.
Any questions for Mr. Anderson? Okay, does anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Counselor Long?
I move to adopt, I move the adoption of resolution number 22-012, accepting a dedication of property from the Marlin and Constance Nunley Revocable Living Trust for public street purposes.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Oh, go ahead.
I'll second that.
Been moved by Counselor Long and seconded by Counselor Randall to approve the resolution accepting a portion of property for public street purposes. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Okay, fine. Let's see. Item 11B, approval of ARPA funding for the Mid-Columbia Community Action Council and the Northern Wasco County Parks and Recreation District. Mr. Kara.
Thank you very much, Mayor Mays, Honorable Council. The Finance Director is unable to attend tonight, and she asked me to step in to present her agenda staff report on this and another issue later in the agenda. This is concerning the dispersal of 2021 American Rescue Plan Act federal funding. And you may recall the last time this was brought up was at the September 13th meeting, where the city manager had discussed some of the specific projects that were connected with the city's plans for the ARPA funding that it received. And the council asked for staff to return with some additional information connected with 2 specific projects. The first being the property acquisition fund, as it was then described, applied for by Mid-Columbia Community Action Council, and the Cirrhosis Park project, applied for by the Northern Wasco County Parks and Recreation District. And so the city developed a grant funding program to which both of those previously named entities applied and submitted applications and associated materials for the funding. Specifically, Mid-Columbia submitted a $500,000 request for the funding of the Dalles Navigation Center project, and a copy of the draft funding agreement, which is a standard template I developed for these specific purposes, is attached to my staff report, which also includes MCAC's application as well as a narrative description of their proposal. You'll also find attached to the staff report the Northern Wasco Parks and Recreation District's application, just like MCAC's, and except in this case, the Parks and Rec District requested $400,000 in ARPA funding to provide for additional monies for the Cirrhosis Park Rehabilitation Phase 1 project, as it's described. I understand the city clerk sent off an email today, including some of the landscaping and architectural consultant plans associated with this project. And it's known as the Cirrhosis Park Conceptual Plan, dated February 2022. And so at the September 13th meeting, council asked staff to return with some additional information on this project, which has been included in the packet for your consideration. Generally, it seems that so long as a proposed project was on that initial list presented by the city manager at the September 13th meeting, and so long as a project is determined by the finance director and the city attorney as meeting the ARPA funding criteria as approved uses, and so long as the projects otherwise appear ready to be implemented, it seems that the council has already provided some direction here as to whether or not it would approve some of these contracts. And so attached for your consideration are these two drafts. Some highlights for these: the deadline to expend funds associated with these two projects is the same as it is for all ARPA projects, December 31st, 2027. The federal funds that we're talking about, totaling $900,000 in this case, are limited to the specific project as presented and other eligible uses as all outlined by the U.S. Treasury. These are considered sub-awards. Both MCAC and Parks and Rec are considered sub-recipients, and they have stringent reporting requirements. And in order to be compliant with federal funding, they need to provide the city and the U.S. Treasury with some, yearly reports and some accounting. And the city is able to inspect the books of these entities to determine whether or not our funding is being used appropriately, as well as other stringent financial reporting requirements. And so with that, staff's recommendation is to move to authorize the city manager to execute ARPA funding agreements to approve grant funding to Mid-Columbia Community Action Council in an amount not to exceed $500,000 for the Dalles Navigation Center project, and to Northern Wasco County Parks and Recreation District in an amount not to exceed $400,000 for the Cirrhosis Park Rehabilitation Phase 1 project. I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Kara?
Just one.
Councilor Runyon.
Second to last paragraph, page 1 of 2, 96 of 212. Maybe it's just a title, maybe it's just verbiage, but it says Property Acquisition Fund. And in the case of the Navigation Center, it's a donation of the property. So what's the bigger definition of that property acquisition fund?
Thank you for emphasizing that, Councilor Runyon. It's my understanding at the time that this was sort of being noodled around and brainstormed by city staff as to what the best use for our community these funds could be used for. I'm not too sure where the phrase property acquisition fund came from, but it was my understanding that this money has always sort of been contemplated for being a sub award for MCAC for the development of some project. And so I think at the time, back when this was initially developed, and the first time this was brought to council's informal consideration at the June 28th meeting, that I think the intent at the time for MCAC was, but I certainly don't speak for them, was to use this money to acquire land, property. And since then, it seems that the phrase property acquisition fund may be not so relevant. It's my understanding that they received a donation of land. And so
basically that's my question, because they had the Northern Wasco County Parks and Rec under that same title there. Obviously they're not buying new ground for a park.
Sure. And so staff analyzed a host of potential permissible uses for these fundings. And all of this money has extremely strict federal requirements that it must comply with. And so we analyze this, at least when I say we, I speak for myself and the finance director. We analyze this project as a property acquisition to support transitional housing and everything else that MCAC is trying to accomplish through the Navigation Center. And we analyze it to determine whether or not this would be an eligible use that would be acceptable to US Treasury. And we also analyzed it after the donation of land to MCAC to determine whether or not the funding used for, well, whatever else they're going to use the funding for connected with the Navigation Center, as outlined in the plan, we determined that that also meets these federal requirements. And so no matter how you sliced it, or no matter how we sliced it at least, it certainly seemed that the project was eligible, and that as a nonprofit or organization, MCAC itself was eligible to be a subrecipient of this award. And so it used to be called property acquisition back in June 2021. Obviously, it's not so, not being used to acquire any property now. But I included that here just because that's how the council initially saw this. Does that sort of answer the rest of your question? You're welcome.
Councilor Richardson.
I have a question for Jonathan. And I did bounce this off Angie, and so I don't know if you have thought about it or had any discussions, but I'd like to give you a crack at it. Do you see any serious problems with granting the funds specifically to MCAC for the Navigation Center upon the receipt of required City of the Dells community development permits?
No, not necessarily. And that's a political question. From a legal standpoint, this is an agreement that I drafted. And so it can say what the city wants. It's never been my understanding that the council has had that intention. And it certainly wasn't something that I don't believe has ever been brought to my attention. That's my answer.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Councilor Long.
Councilor Richardson, could you just clarify for me, were you trying to say that if the building permit or the development department did not approve what they wanted to build, that they would not get the money, that you want to specify that in the agreement? Is that what?
In the motion, that was the question or the
Okay.
idea. Yeah.
Okay.
And the point being that, while I support the idea and the project as conceived, there's some hoops still to jump through. And I think that might help make it plain to the rest of our neighbors that, we're not sort of putting an undue thumb on the scale, so to speak, that this project has to go through the same planning process or community development process that any other project will have to.
Okay, any other questions? Would anybody like to make a motion?
I will make an amended motion then, Mr. Mayor. I would move to authorize the city manager to execute ARPA funding agreements to approve grant funding to Northern Wasco County Parks and Recreation District in an amount not to exceed $400,000 for the Sorosis Park Rehabilitation Phase 1 project, and to Mid-Columbia Community Action Council in an amount not to exceed $500,000 for the Dells Navigation Center project upon receipt of required community development permits.
Planning.
Planning Department, Community Development Department permits.
Okay, is there a second to the,
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Sorry for interrupting. I'd prefer such a broad motion that there's some specificity in place. We happen to have, I see her in the audience, our community development director here. This is all very new to me. And I know that I also hate surprises. Sorry, Izetta, you don't have the claim to that one. And so I would very much appreciate it, Alice, if you are working today, could you weigh in and give us your thoughts on whether or not this is something that is feasible for the city's planning processes? I mean, what we're talking about here based off of very broad notion and motion language as presented is no funding until the city provides development permits or I'm not too sure what sorts of permits. There's many different types of permits that are connected with community development. And the city certainly isn't the gatekeeper of all of them. I know that there is a joint review implemented by Wasco County when it comes to building codes, for example, or certificates of occupancy. And so before a motion is made with that sort of general language, which would be sort of, a lot more hurdles for the city to jump through generally, I would appreciate if the community development director could provide her input on this.
You could speak to the land use sign off. That's what Councilor Richard is.
Specifically the cities. I'm not proposing that every other agency that might have say has to be satisfied. I'm sorry.
Alice, if you could,
Site plan review.
why don't you introduce yourself with your job here at the city?
Alice Cannon, Community Development Director, Mayor Mays, and Councilor Richardson. This particular proposal needs to get a site plan review. That's the land use application. It is typically a staff level decision. So it's appeal planning commission. So that's, yeah, this is not a conditional use permit in this particular case. So I'm hearing you right, Jonathan, Mr. Kara. I think the way to do this may be to say that the funding would be contingent upon receiving its approval.
Okay. And so if we could add some specificity, I think that's all I care about from the legal side of things. Whatever the city wants to decide substantively is very much up to the city. And so with that said, thank you very much, Ms. Cannon. Can we specify in your motion, Councilor Richardson, if that's still the motion you'd like to make, that upon MCAC's receipt of community development director's approval, which is an administrative review of the site plan.
Land use approval.
Site plan review approval or land use approval.
Although it is not an approval of the use, it is an approval of the development, right?
The site plan review.
Right. So let's call it a site plan review. And so this is a very messy motion at this point. And so I guess everything, if you had it written down, Councilor Richardson, it would be the same exact motion you just said, except let's indicate specifically upon approval of the city's site plan review process.
Would it be appropriate to amend an amended motion saying the same as previously stated upon the receipt of a site plan review?
Yes.
Approval of.
It's whatever the city wants. Would you like it to be approved contingent upon the city's receipt or upon the city's approval of?
City's
I'd like
approval.
me to read what I think you said.
Please do. Go ahead.
Sure.
Move to authorize the city manager to execute the ARPA funding agreements to approve grant funding to Northern Wasco County Parks and Recreation District in an amount not to exceed $400,000 for the Cirrhosis Park Rehabilitation Phase 1 project. And approve grant funding to Mid-Columbia Community Action Council in an amount not to exceed $500,000 for the Dalles Navigation Center project on site plan approval.
Correct, which is the same as the staff recommendations language with the two projects flipped and the addition of the site plan.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Well, I just wanted to read it to make sure everyone understood. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilor Richardson and seconded by Councilor McLaughlin to approve the staff, the recommendation as amended. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much. Last item on the agenda is item 11C, a resolution authorizing budget transfers. Mr. Kara.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mayor and City Council. This is another one of the Finance Director's original presentations. And again, she had asked me to step in since she won't be attending this meeting. Before you tonight is a draft resolution number 22-016, authorizing transfers of some budgeted amounts. Oregon budget law recognizes that at certain times after the beginning of the fiscal year, changes in certain appropriations in the city's budget sometimes become necessary. And the legislature has allowed for those through two different mechanisms, the first being a supplemental budget and the second being a budget amendment. Supplemental budgets generally, they add funds to existing budgets, while budget amendments move funds that have already gone through the budgeting process simply between categories of the same fund. And they don't add to the fund's total budget. And so this is before you here a resolution that authorizes the transfer of $105,000 from the contingency line item of the general fund to cover some additional contractual services in the legal department that were unanticipated at the time of original budgeting. With that, it is staff's recommendation that the council moves to adopt resolution number 22-016, authorizing transfers of budgeted amounts between categories of various funds of the City of the Dalles budget, making appropriations and authorizing expenditures for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2022. As you all know, I am not a finance person. And so I hope that I can answer any questions that any of you may have. I don't know that I can, but it's my understanding that this is essentially some bookkeeping and some formalities. And so.
Any questions for Mr. Kara? Anybody like to make a motion?
I don't have anything written in front of me here.
The motion would just be simply to adopt resolution 22-016. You don't even have to read the whole title.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 22-009, authorizing transfers of budgeted amounts between categories of various funds of the City of the Dalles budget, making appropriations and authorizing expenditures for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022.
I believe that's resolution 22-016. Is that
the wrong
not
one.
correct?
Yes, it's 016.
016. That's okay. Is there a second to adopt resolution number 22-016?
I'll make the second.
It's been moved by Council Randall and seconded by Councilor Runyon to adopt resolution 22-016, authorizing transfers of budgeted amounts. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much. Is there any other business to come before the city council? With that, we will adjourn. Thank you all very much for coming.
Done. Are these for us?
Right there. I got it here.
Well, I didn't know because I didn't have anything in front of me. Then you read the
The
wrong
language
number.
is basically the same.
I don't want you coming.
Did you come up with 009?
Last month.
Oh.
Was that last
Yeah, I
month?
think
Get
I
one
got
from Ron.
a supplemental thing.
We've had 7 since. It's nice and handy.
When the underpass was going to be built on Union Street,
Oh, yeah.
Al Wynn was all against it on the radio and everything, and I kept telling him.
Suing us?
Operations manager,
I gotta-
His train is on.
You gotta leave, but.